The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.
Welcome back to a very special UAB Director's Chair. He is the athletic director for your UAB Blazers, Mark Ingram. I'm Tony Kurre. We do the show every single week, and of course, you can catch us live on our YouTube channel, not to mention any of our TKR platforms, and of course, wherever you get your favorite podcast. It is the first Thursday of March Madness. Unfortunately, our UAB Blazers didn't make the big dance. Neither did they make the NIT. I was a little surprised by that because I thought maybe we had a little cachet there with Andy Kennedy being our coach, and the fact he had 20 victories, certainly a disappointment, correct?
Yeah, I think we were just on the bubble there. Frankly, I think a lot of people agree with this. I think our team probably overachieved this year. Given, we went through a pretty healthy period of time. I say healthy period to be unhealthy. There was about a month where, we had somebody out with a shoulder problem. We had a guy out with an ankle problem. We had somebody else break their hand. So we had 3 starters go down right in the middle of the conference season. And it was about a month that they were all out and missed a lot of games. And people that were in Bartow, I remember Kyron Lindsey Martin came back to play in a game and was in the game for 30 seconds and had to immediately come out and missed another, several games. So when you consider that to get to 20 wins is pretty remarkable. It's more a testament to, Andy Kennedy's ability as a great coach that we're fortunate to have as anything else. So, hey, you fight to play another day,
It hurts to see Lenendorf's name at the bottom of the screen whenever I see a Michigan score, him going for 20 and 14 or whatever. And I think to myself, well, no, it's good. He played at UAB. I mean, that was a guy who was recruited here and certainly was a lot of fun to watch last year and has taken his prowess and his talents to another level now.
Big Ten Player of the Year.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. And how do you take advantage of that? I mean, he came to UAB, right? He was recruited to UAB. How do you take advantage of that? How do you let people know without looking like sour grapes?
Well, I mean, our fans certainly know, and it's like, what are you trying to do? Broadcast that otherwise? I mean, I think, when given the opportunity, just like right now, if local media or whomever might ask us about him or ask about the portal, we can reference him as a guy that was here that went on to do very well. Look, Butta Johnson left here and went to Clemson and is playing quite a bit at Clemson now. I don't know that he was as much at the beginning of the year, but in his total minutes, I don't know, but he's playing in the NCAA tournament with Clemson. He's had a good enough year, like I said, to be on the court and get an opportunity to play somewhere else. And Butta's a great kid, as is Yaxel Lindeborg, and we're happy for them. It's one of those things in the modern era. You have no choice but to just be happy for them if it works out. The thing that is distressing is how many kids it doesn't work out for. We are looking at guys talking about those 2 that it's worked out for, but it doesn't just work out for everybody. And they are unique cases. So, sometimes kids get into the portal because an agent tells them, hey, man, you can make all this money and you're going to get paid. And they're not realizing, like, schools, let's use the Big Ten or the A-10, for example. I know a UAB fan would like to think that somehow their budgets or their dollars are lower than ours, but you forget if they don't have football, there's $8 or $9 million a year that they're not spending on football that they can redirect to basketball. Yeah. And that's what they do. And so their budgets, while in total may be the same or even less than ours, but the budget for basketball is greater because they don't have football. And so, which is a huge, investment that anybody that has football has to make. Well, anybody that has Division I football has to make FBS football. So, if you've got Division III or FCS football, it's just less expensive and your coaches make less, your travel is less, you have fewer scholarships, et cetera. And the demand for spending in the revenue share space is also less. So those teams will pay a guy to leave us to be their 8th man. They might pay $500,000 for a guy to be their 8th man. It'd be one of our starters.
That's how. Do you think? And this is a dumb question, maybe, I don't know. Do you think kids are willing to get paid to not play? In other words,
Yes.
if you say,
Yeah.
if you could sit there and say you could be the starting five for UAB, or we're going to give you $50,000 to go play at New Mexico State, I can't believe that. I mean,
It's not 50,000, it's
yeah,
500,000.
yeah,
And no one is told, hey, come be our eighth man. It's just, we know as our coaches and know who's on the team, who's staying on that team, and who they've already got committed to go to that team. And we can say to the kid, hey, man, you're going to have a hard time getting on the court there. Even though they're going to pay you $500,000, you're going to have a hard time getting on the court there. You're going to start here, and we know that because you're going to be second year in our system, and
yeah.
you're going to have an advantage. And yeah, it's our coach's job to recruit over you. It's always our coach's job to recruit better players. But the right attitude guy. One of our assistants was telling me about Tony, a kid that was on our team
Yeah.
last year. The great kid was on our team for in our system for all 5 years. Started and finished here. And at some point they were, I don't know if it was his sophomore, junior year, saying, hey, look, Tony, it's our job to recruit over you. What do you want to, what is your plan? And Tony's response was, hey, man, if you recruit players and I don't get on the court, that's on me.
Yeah.
And that's the right attitude that a player has to have. And it's just rare. And for Tony, it continues to kind of point out what a great kid Tony is. And he was so great for our program. But it's because he had the right mindset of, I get on the court because I work hard.
Yeah.
I get on the court because I show effort. I get on the court because I make fewer mistakes. That's how you get on the court. And for these kids who just show up and think it's supposed to be handed to them, they're the ones who really struggle because they think that there's just this guarantee that they're just going to land on the court because.
So UAB went through this thing last year where you lost basically everybody. I think you brought like 2 minutes or something like that. It was 12 new guys in the team, and you won 20 games. So obviously you have a good starting point. It would come to expect anyway that if you've won 20 games this year and you're bringing everyone back, you should be better next year. So what do you do at the end of the basketball season when you go, hey, listen, I mean, if this team was 9-23, you go, listen, ain't no one got to become recruiting these guys. But you did have some guys that got some names out there and have some branding going there. So how do you keep those guys? Do you have one-on-one conversations with them? Do you and coach sit in the middle of the night smoking cigars and go, okay, where are we going to start with, and how are we going to raise money to keep this kid? How does that go?
Yeah, I mean, Andy, it's completely up to Andy and his staff to determine who they, would like to keep and who that they think, hey, we missed on that guy, or I really like that kid. Usually how it is I really like that kid. I'm just not sure that he can play at this level. We thought maybe he could, but maybe he can't. Don't forget, you still have kids that are seniors who graduate naturally and matriculate that don't have eligibility left. So you've always got some holes to fill.
Sure.
And then, Andy will sit down with these players and the staff will sit down with the players one-on-one and say exactly that. Hey, we really like you to stay. We know you're going to be offered X in the portal. We can offer you Y. And here's why we think you ought to stay. Because if you and funny enough, you asked about Yaxel Lindeborg. He's an excellent example. After his first year, he could have gone and made, and the numbers have just doubled, if not tripled since then. But he could have made like 400,000 if he left. But by staying here another year in our system, it meant he started the season with greater confidence about where is he supposed to be on offense, on defense, on the press. What are his responsibilities? And he was able to, develop his skills, but also play from the very beginning of the year more consistently through the year because he knew he wasn't questioning, oh, okay, I go to the block, I set a screen, then I turn around, I go back down to the, to the post, I come up to the top and go out to the wing. And he was able to just move naturally and just play. And as a result of that, his second year with us was dominant.
Yeah.
And that's why he got $4 million to go to Michigan.
Yeah.
And so by missing out, by skipping the 400 and taking what we paid him, which was half of that.
It almost sounds like the NFL draft.
He went and made a lot more. And so using that example with guys like, hey, I know you could make more now, but you actually could make a lot more later if you'll just be patient with us. because you leave here and you go to, I don't know, Houston,
Yeah.
and you make more money, but now you got to learn a whole new system, and you
And
may
you're
not
moving
even
away
get on
from
the
your
court.
there's a chance you're moving away from your family. I mean, he may be
You may
married,
not
may
get
have
on the
kids.
court.
Yeah, may not get on the court. So there's all kinds of different things. I think the
Yeah.
other thing is, and I thought Dickie V brought up a really interesting case the other night. He was on with Charles Barkley. It was great to watch those two work together for the first time ever. But he said, you got kids that are going to 4 different colleges in 4 different years with
Yeah.
4 different teams, 4 different platforms, 4 different assistant coaches, 4 different head coaches, 4 different. It's hard enough to get to learn one over the course of 3 or 4 years. Now you're asking these kids to switch overnight, and and in the middle of that, they have testosterone growing, they're
Yeah.
growing in the stature, blah, blah, blah. It's unbelievable. It was a really interesting story, and I always do some prep. I always make sure that I'm Opie, on time, prepared, and engaged whenever you're on here, the UAB Director's Chair. East Bay, San Francisco college called the College of Alameda. Have you ever heard of it?
College of Alameda.
Yeah, it's in the California Community College Athletics Association.
Okay.
And I'm bringing this up for a reason, because if you go to their website, it says they have two sporting events there. They have men's basketball and women's volleyball.
Okay.
And I bring this up because the head coach of their men's basketball program is the one and only Gary Payton. Yes, that Gary Payton of the NBA. We love
All
him.
right.
He played for the Seattle
Great player.
Supersonics stuff. Great player. And yeah. And they came to find out that the last couple of years, Alameda hasn't had a women's volleyball team. And they said they did, but they didn't. They tried, but they just didn't have enough gals to get on the court and play volleyball.
Huh.
And so now the commission's coming saying you must end your basketball program because for whatever you have for men's, you must have women's as well because of Title IX.
Okay.
How often does that happen? I've never heard of that. And I've never heard. How many sports do you guys have? 37, something like that. I mean,
We have 18.
yeah. You go. So I'm just wondering how often that happens. How do you go 2 years without a program and keep your basketball program? Is that someone just missing something?
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, I think the community college system, the junior college system is very different than, Division I FBS, NCAA. I think the reality sounds like for the community college system, if they only, you don't have to have, like we have to have 16 sports. We have to have at least 16 sports to be considered Division I.
Okay.
And then for how Title IX works is it's not even. It's not you got to have 200 men and 200 women. It's you have to have a percentage. The percentage of your athletes needs to mirror the male to female ratio of your campus.
Oh,
So at
okay.
UAB, we're 63% female students. So we need to have 63% of our athletic opportunities need to be for women.
Yeah.
And so I think the community college system is just different. And so my guess is they went a couple of years without it. There's some grace period of, okay, go try to recruit girls to come here. And then eventually they weren't allowed. They weren't able to, I guess. And that's why they had to discontinue the basketball game. I'm going on what you're saying, Tony. So
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
No, and I didn't realize that Gary Payton was a head basketball coach anywhere.
No, I
thought
didn't
that-
either.
When I saw that, I probably would not have brought the story up until I saw his name. I thought, wow, this must be an up and coming program, and good for him. I love when you see these Hall of Famers come out of their boots and all of a sudden they're coaching Little League baseball or high school
Yeah.
basketball or
Just go
football,
teach.
whatever. Yeah, I mean,
Go teach the game.
yeah, it's and we saw that with Deion Sanders, and we've seen that with a lot of guys in college ball as well. All right, so the brackets out. You mentioned Clemson a few minutes ago. That's that 8-9 matchup, Clemson, Iowa. I told my son, I said, I'll bet you that Mark Ingram did not fill out a bracket. And he's like, he's so flipping busy, man. He doesn't know what's going on. But I will have to ask you because I know you're a basketball guy. I know how much you love basketball. And if you have not filled out a bracket, we're going to go through it right now because a lot of people, I've got several emails. Please ask Mark Ingram who he likes to win the national title. I've gotten 3 of those emails over the last week. So let's get into it. It's the 800-pound gorilla in the room. Who do you like? I think it's really interesting. I was telling my son, so I got my Elite Eight, Duke, UConn, Florida, Houston, Arizona, Miami, Alabama, and Iowa State, which is not crazy. And a lot of people would say, but I do have St. Louis knocking off Michigan in the second round. And of course, everyone would look at it and go, come on, there's no way. Here's the deal. It's going to happen. I'm not saying that particular game is going to
Oh
happen,
yeah,
but we've only had 4 1 seeds make it to the Final Four twice, and one time was last year. Think about that. 4
yeah.
1 seeds who this year
But
unequivocally
Tony,
would say they're higher above than anyone else. I mean, it's the top 4 teams than everybody else. So
yeah,
you know there's going to be an upset. You know there's going to be a St. Louis over Michigan score somewhere. We're not talking about 16 over 1 here, although that's happened as well. So, don't be blowing my bracket up before we start playing some basketball. But, it takes a man with some kahunas to get outside the box a little bit. And again, the bracket that I think is really good, and Santos is really good at this, is the kid that can get the double-digit seed and ride that double-digit seed all the way to an Elite Eight or a Final Four. That takes big kahunas, because if they go out early, you're screwing your point totals all the way up to the Final Four. And by the way,
yeah.
a double-digit seed has made the Final Four in 4 of the last 9 tournaments. So half the time, a double-digit seed will make it to the Final Four, which is amazing.
Yeah, I would say that because of the tampering and paying players and taking good players off your roster, the higher resourced programs don't have to recruit the same way. They now recruit us. They find Yaxel Lindeborg proven players who are already mature in their game. And that's why I think last year you had 4 number ones, because you had fewer upsets. I mean, last year North Carolina was like a bubble team Cinderella. North Carolina.
Yeah.
And so you're going to have fewer, sadly.
We're 1 and 12.
Fewer
We're 1 and 12 against Quad 1 schools last year, by the way.
Yeah, you're going to have fewer of those Cinderella story events, I think. And he certainly did last year, and I think it's because of the compensation. The teams that I think are really good, I think Michigan's got a real shot at going all the way. I like Arizona. I like Vanderbilt. I like Duke. I like St. John.
Can Duke win without Caleb Foster if he's out the entire time?
If he's out the entire time, that's going to be tough, but they're really good, man. And I like Arkansas. I think Arkansas is really good too. So it'll be interesting to see how that all shakes out. I haven't seen Florida play as much. I remember they lost to Auburn in Florida, and I remember thinking, well, maybe Florida's not as good, but they got a 1 seed. So
and then Auburn lost to like Nebraska 2 nights later. It was like, what in the world? How'd that happen?
Yeah, Nebraska. How about Nebraska is the only team that's never won a tournament game?
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, so they're playing Troy.
Mm-hmm.
They're playing Troy.
The Trojans, sure.
Who we played, and Troy beat us here on a buzzer beater in Bartow. Troy, they've done a nice job. Troy's a tough team. Furman's a tough team. Those are some Cinderellas. St. Louis, those are some guys that could maybe be, knock people off.
I love a Queens. I love that. I mean, I love seeing a team like Queens.
And that's Charlotte. That's not, I don't think that's Queens, New York.
It is not. The Queens Royals, they're from Charlotte, North Carolina. Yes, indeed. Because the first time you see it, you think of Queens, New York, obviously.
Yeah.
And that's what makes this so much fun. I've been amazed how many of my friends do not want to see expansion. I don't understand why. For me, it's just more basketball. It's another weekend, or it's another game. It's only one more game, but yet you're adding another. Because every time you play,
like I've told you could eliminate the first 4 that we just had.
Yeah.
That Miami won, and that was fun. Good for Miami, Ohio. I'm thrilled for them.
Yeah.
You could eliminate that first 4, and if you just had one round, you'd double the field.
Yeah, exactly.
So this whole chatter about, we can't, there's just not enough days. That's not true.
It buys us because every time we play a round of games, we're cutting it in half. It goes from like today, which is one of the greatest days in the college sports calendar, from basketball starting here in just a few minutes all the way till midnight tonight, to going to the point where we have 2 games on Saturday and 2 games on Sunday, and you're like, what just happened here? It goes by so flipping fast, unlike, let's say, the NBA playoffs, which seems like it lasts 4 months, which I also like. So I've been surprised by how many of my friends are like, nah, but they're the whole everyone gets a trophy guys. Oh, everyone's getting a trophy. Everyone gets it. I said, no, they're not getting a trophy. I said, of all the major sports, only 16% of college basketball teams play postseason. That's ridiculous. I said, where of everyone else, it's like somewhere between 35 and 40%, sometimes even more in the NBA. So, and it just keeps more fan bases involved. Yes, it'll be more difficult to print a bracket out because it's going to be a little bit bigger. But I kind of was surprised by that. I saw an interesting question out of the East bracket, and they were asking which coach out of the East would you take if you could have a head coach? Because out of the East, you have Patino, you have Bill Self, you have Tom Izzo, you have Hurley, and you have Shire at Duke. Out of those five guys, all five coaches coming out of the East. Think about that for a minute.
They're all great.
Before Shire, of course, it was Coach K. But out of those five guys,
Shire's the youngest of the group. He's the least in terms of wins. He's certainly the least decorated out of the group. But I think John Shire's a good coach. I think he's doing an better than admirable job at Duke, considering he had to follow Mike Krzyzewski, which is hard.
Hurley's got two national champions, all right. I mean, do you like Bobby Hurley?
Yeah, no, you mean not Bobby Hurley.
Not Bobby. No,
Dan.
Dan. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think Dan Hurley's terrific. I think Dan Hurley's terrific. But Rick Pitino continues to reinvent himself everywhere he goes. So he'd be hard to bet on. Tom Izzo, who's a staple of college basketball, he's propping up with it. He's like a column at Michigan State that's holding up the world over there. He's consistently hard to beat.
Yeah.
Now, he hasn't won a national title in a while, but he's in the hunt for it all the time. Bill Self is consistently tough at Kansas. I mean, you're talking about a bunch of great ones, man.
Yeah, I was going to find out how many Final Fours for Tom Izzo. Do you have any idea? Because I used to know this answer because it's just amazing. He's been to 8 Final Fours. 1999, 2000, 2001, 2005, 2009, 2010, 2015, 2019. And he's got one national title.
Yeah.
He's another one of those guys where the sports world is not fair. But the fact that Dan Hurley has 2 national titles and Tom Izzo only has 1 is just like a head scratcher to me. That's kind of strange.
But Connecticut has won more national championships than anybody in the last 30 years.
Yeah.
And most people don't know that. I don't know why, but most people, if you said who's won the most national championships in the last 30 years in men's basketball, UConn. I mean, most people are going to go, oh, it's probably Duke, Kansas, Kentucky, somebody like that. It's Connecticut.
Yeah. And undoubtedly the SEC was probably one of the strongest conferences, if not the strongest outside the Big Ten this year. And I know a lot of people are rooting against the SEC because it just means more. What's your thoughts on, 10 getting in? Do you think the SEC lights it on fire? The funny thing is outside Florida, everyone's kind of like in that 4, 5, 6, 7. We have a couple of 10s and 9. Everyone's kind of in the middle of those pairings. Do you think the SEC has a good showing this year, or do you think there are a lot of mediocre SEC teams that got in because the competition's so tough and they're going to get knocked out early?
Well, Texas lost, right?
Yep.
Was there somebody else in that first 4 besides Texas?
There was Texas, and then
Texas, Miami.
No, that was it.
SMU.
That was SMU, Miami, Prairie View, and Lehigh, Texas, NC State, and then Howard and UMBC. So
and we played NC State, and they were good.
So let's go through it. We have Arkansas, Hawaii.
Yeah, Arkansas, I think is tough. I think Arkansas is a Final Four team, maybe.
Yeah, we got, and I do too. And for people who didn't know who this Acuff kid is, and they just found him, they're like, wow,
they know who he is now.
He's been around for a while. Miami, Missouri should be interesting. Miami of Florida against Missouri. That's 7-10
I haven't seen Miami, Florida play at all. I can't.
One of my early upsets. I like the Billikens over the Georgia Bulldogs. St. Louis and Georgia, 8-9 matchup. I think
Georgia seems to be a little inconsistent. There's certain nights Georgia looks like they could beat about anybody, but then other nights not so much.
Does Alabama scare you? They're averaging 91.7 points a ball game. They're unbelievable up and down the floor. Of course, they live and die by the 3. They're taking a Hofstra squad. I think it's like the line's like 13. I'm like, wait a minute, why is that line only 13? That is a head scratcher. That makes me want to take Hofstra.
I mean, Alabama should have more talent, all those things. I don't know. I think Alabama's pretty good. I don't know that I think Alabama's an Elite 8, but they might be a Sweet 16 team. I think they're good.
Your Tennessee squad's taking on Miami of Ohio next.
I think they need to be worried. I think Tennessee has been really inconsistent. I don't think Tennessee's great. And now, what happened to that kid? They have one kid who's really great, and he got hurt a couple of weeks ago. He hurt his knee in a play, and he came out of the game. I can't remember if he went back in. Feels like maybe they were playing Auburn, maybe.
Could be.
It happened in Knoxville because I was watching the game or a part of the game. I happened to see him get hurt. Golly, what's that kid's name? He's really good. He's a freshman, I think. Anyway, I don't know if he's playing or not. That probably depends on a lot of things because he's dangerous.
Uh, Kentucky, Santa Clara. I'm so like over Kentucky. I mean, if I'm a gambler, I
I
cannot figure
can't
this
figure them
basketball
out,
game
man.
Well, we couldn't figure them out when Calipari was there.
I know.
And it's like they were losing games to High Point, and then they're winning games they shouldn't have. And it's just like there was just no consistency. And then of
Yeah.
course you see Calipari take another team, his seventh, to March Madness. I'm thinking to myself, you're a Kentucky fan, are you still glad he's gone? I guess you are. I mean,
I don't
I don't
understand how
know.
you could be glad that he's gone. I think John Cal. Sometimes you just, I don't know, man. I think sometimes it's unfortunate for coaches and probably ADs too that sometimes you can people just get tired of looking at you and they get tired of hearing the
And
same.
he's easy to get tired of after a while.
I don't
Did,
know. I have met John Calipari once. It was very brief. It was very pleasant,
yeah.
but I don't know
He's a
him.
funny guy. He just wears you out a little bit. And that's one of the only
But he's
programs.
doggone good, and he's been good since the day he got to Arkansas, man.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just
So
hard, man, when you have these kind of programs, let's just say Kentucky, where their expectation is national title, and I appreciate that. It ought to
mhm.
be. But you just can't do that. Everybody else is recruiting and coaching and training and all the stuff and watching film.
But you
And
better
so
be
they
in some
don't.
Final Fours, right? That's the see. Tom Izzo has been in 8 Final Fours. I'm not saying you have to
Yeah,
win a national title, but
yeah.
I think he only went to 3 Final Fours when he's at Kentucky. I mean, they
I
didn't
don't
bring him
know.
in as the greatest
Yeah,
coach of
yeah,
all
yeah.
time.
I
I
just mean what I'm getting at is like sometimes you go, hey, let's get rid of him. It's like, okay, but to go get who?
Yeah.
You know,
Um,
like
and I'm looking at a couple other things here. Vanderbilt and McNeese State. I don't think that's going to be a problem. Shouldn't be. You mentioned Nebraska and Troy, which I think is going to be an interesting matchup. And then you got A&M and St. Mary's. Look out for St. Mary's now. The St. Mary's is really good. They're always really good at the bottom of the bracket on the south side. So I don't know.
yeah.
What do you do? What are you doing for March Madness? Do you really get into it? Do you watch it a lot? I know you're a busy man, and
Well, I'll be working today.
mhm.
It's hard to watch television
Yeah,
from the office, but when I get home, yeah, I'll watch it all night as much as I can, and it's
yeah,
fun.
yeah.
I think it's one of the best things that we do. Um, because it's so inclusive. I'd like it to be more inclusive, but because it's so inclusive, that's what makes it fun to me. The idea of it just being like the ACC, Big Ten, SEC, and Big 12, if that's all it was, I just don't think that's interesting. I mean, we sat here talking about Santa Clara and St. Louis and St. John's, and these are the people at Furman, Troy. These are the teams that I think make it exciting because people haven't seen them play. They're coming from conferences that don't have television packages that allow them to be on display the same as call it these other autonomy conferences, and so all of a sudden you get to watch Queens play, and you had
Yeah,
no
no, that's
idea,
great. No, that's
and then
great.
like show up and beat your tail, and
No,
you go,
and
"Who are
that's what
these
I love.
guys?"
Yeah,
You're like, "Man, they've been there all year. You just didn't know it."
that's what I loved about having the
Yeah,
AAC. We were down there for every game. Watched
yeah,
South Florida, who's won 11 games in a row. Didn't realize it. Seeing Tulsa, they were
yeah.
fantastic. Seeing some of these other basketball, North Texas, always a pain in the ass to watch because they play slow down. But of course, they were getting up and down the floor now.
They're tough.
Yeah,
Texas is
it
tough.
was fun to watch. Can you answer this question? I'll let you go. So college football, the CFP is outside the NCAA. A lot of people are like, "What's the big money maker?
Yeah,
It's football." No, it's not. They make a lot more in NCAA basketball. March Madness is the cash cow.
it's really it.
It really, yeah. So, and I'm not giving anyone an idea here, but why doesn't the NCAA? Why don't we have a special program for college basketball, much like football does with the CFB? Why don't we have a CFB or college
I,
CBA or whatever?
it's a good question. I don't know how that came to be, even though I was working in college athletics, but I wasn't in a position to, I wasn't in a leadership role when the BCS was formed. I was just coming out of college, really, and first couple of years working when the BCS started, and it was its own entity. And then the college football playoff started, and it was its own entity. And I don't know why the NCAA didn't take control of that or wasn't able to. I like legally, I don't know enough to say. But all the money that the NCAA has comes from the NCAA men's basketball tournament. And then they do generate revenue in other ways, in other tournaments. But just remember, the NCAA funds every other championship: women's basketball, volleyball, fencing, softball, baseball. They fund every other championship, and it's like 37 of them.
Yeah.
They're able to do it through the money they generate from the men's basketball tournament.
Crazy. Yeah.
I don't know if this is accurate. I've been told the women's basketball tournament loses like $40 million.
Wow.
Now it might make 40, but maybe they spend 80. I'm just making those numbers
Really?
up. Well, I'm not making up the 40. That's what I've been told. That could be inaccurate, but that's the number.
377 and 1 are the top 3 seeds in women's basketball.
Say that again?
377 and 1 is the record of the top 3 seeds in women's basketball. I think that again, we can make this argument. There was a couple of games this year. There was an 82-point line and a 67-point line, and both those teams covered.
Well, I'll say this: I was reasonably close to Pat Summitt. I was very close to one of her assistants, a guy named Al Brown, who Al had worked on the men's basketball side before he worked in women's basketball. And he told me that I thought was interesting. He said, if you were just to look at like talent and the quality of teams, he said in men's basketball, if you had like a line graph, and he said the number one team is here. And he said to the worst team, 355 or whatever it was at the time, he's like, the quality is like this even slope. He goes, in women's basketball, there's like 4 teams.
Yeah.
And then there's a drop. And then there's like 4 or 5 teams, and then a drop. And he said that's the way it works in women's basketball from a quality perspective. He used to say, he's like, we knew who the Final Four was going to be. He goes, you could predict the top 8, and he goes like, and there's like 5 of us that are going to be in the Final Four.
Yeah.
He's like, one of us isn't going to get in, but it's like you knew based on the kids that signed and the quality and the difference in quality and talent team by team, which were the top 4. At the time, it was like Tennessee, UConn. Funny enough, Old Dominion, Louisiana Tech for a while, Stanford at that kind of, I'm going way back now, 25 years. So you kind of knew it. And then Michigan State and Duke kind of emerged for a minute. But he's like, you knew who it was going to be. Georgia and LSU, kind of compete in there. So it's very different on the women's side, to your point, in terms, and you look at the records, and that kind of says it all.
It is indeed. All right, my man. Enjoy your March Madness. We'll catch up next week. UAB Director's Chair. He is Mark Ingram. Joins us every single week. And, of course, go to UABsports.com, UABsports.com for everything that is the green and gold. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you.
Go Blazers.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Curry Radio.